They called her a criminal. They called her a drifter. They called her dangerous. But the moment the judge heard her name, the entire courtroom changed. The old man in black robes, stern, immovable, carved from decades of law, rose to his feet in silence. No gavel, no warning, just silence. Because the woman in handcuffs was not who anyone thought she was. And by the end of that trial, everyone in that room would be forced to confront a question they never expected. How do you judge a hero the world has forgotten? Stay with this story because what happened next would shake the courtroom, uncover buried truths, and remind us that sometimes the strongest warriors are the ones fighting battles we never see. Rain pressed against the courthouse windows like a restless memory. Inside courtroom 7B, people whispered, she looks too young. She looks harmless. Homeless people can't be trusted. At the defense table stood a woman in a pale green dress that didn't quite fit her thin frame. Her wrists were cuffed in front of her. Her hair was pulled back neatly, though stray strands clung to her face. She stood straight, too straight for someone facing felony charges. Her name, according to the file, was Avery Cole, 32 years old, no permanent address. Arrested for assault and resisting arrest after an altercation outside a downtown grocery store. Security footage showed her striking a man. Witnesses claimed she attacked him without warning. Open and shut case. Except nothing about Avery looked unstable. She stood like a soldier awaiting orders. The judge entered. Judge Harold Bennett, 68 years old, known for discipline and unshakable composure, he had seen everything in his 40 years on the bench, or so he thought. Bring in the defendant, he said, adjusting his glasses. Avery was already standing. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and something flickered in his. But he continued, state your name for the record. Her voice was calm, controlled. Avery Lynn Cole, former Chief Petty Officer, United States Navy. A murmur rippled through the room. The judge's pen paused slightly above the paper. He continued carefully. Ink continued carefully. You are charged with felony assault. How do you plead? Not guilty, Your Honor. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, the defendant attacked a civilian without provocation. The victim suffered a broken nose and concussion. She has no stable residence and has been seen sleeping behind businesses for months. She is a danger. That man, Avery interrupted, her voice steady but sharp, had his hands on a 12-year-old girl. Silence. The prosecutor stiffened. There is no evidence of that claim. With Avery's jaw tightened. Because there rarely was. The courtroom tension thickened. Judge Bennett studied her more closely now, her posture, her composure, the way she scanned the room, instinctively noting exits, not fear, assessment. The prosecutor continued presenting footage. The video showed Avery rushing toward a man and striking him. The girl was off camera. Without context, it looked brutal. Judge Bennett leaned back. Miss Cole, he said slowly, you claim you acted in defense of a child? Yes, sir. Why were you there? A pause. Because how do you explain falling from the highest peak of honor to sleeping on cold concrete? I was nearby. The prosecutor smirked slightly. And nearby begging, perhaps. Avery's hands tightened in her cuffs. I don't beg. Judge Bennett noticed that. He noticed everything. Then came the turning point. The prosecutor submitted Avery's background file, thin, incomplete, military discharge, medical, psychological evaluation recommended, no permanent residence since. Judge Bennett's expression shifted. Approach, he said quietly. Both attorneys stepped forward. Avery remained standing alone. The judge flipped through the attached military records. His eyes stopped, then moved again, then froze. His breathing changed. He looked up slowly. Miss Cole, did you serve in Naval Special Warfare? Yes, Your Honor. Were you attached to classified maritime operations? Yes, sir. The courtroom murmured again, louder this time. The prosecutor blinked. Your Honor, that's irrelevant. But the judge wasn't listening anymore. He was staring at one specific line. Operation Silent Tide. Medal of Valor. Purple Heart, 3 teammates, Kia, sole survivor. The judge's hand trembled slightly. Because 20 years ago, his son had died in Operation Silent Tide. The courtroom did not know, but Judge Bennett did. He rose to his feet. Not out of authority, out of something deeper. Silence swallowed the room. He removed his glasses slowly. Avery Cole, he said softly, voice thick. You pulled Petty Officer Daniel Bennett out of the water under enemy fire. The world seemed to stop. Avery blinked. The name hit her like a distant explosion. Daniel Bennett. She remembered his laugh. His stubborn optimism, the way he refused to quit during training. She remembered dragging him across a burning deck. She remembered failing to save him. "Yes, sir," she whispered. The judge swallowed. He was my son. A collective gasp. No one moved. No one breathed. And suddenly, this wasn't just a trial. It was a reckoning. But the story was far from over. Grief changes people. For Judge Bennett, it had hardened him. For Avery Cole, it had broken her. After Operation Silent Tide, Avery had returned home with medals and nightmares. 3 teammates dead. One she pulled from the water, but he died hours later from internal injuries. She received commendations. Then came the quiet, the insomnia, the guilt, the feeling that she had survived by accident. She tried to stay in the Navy, tried to be strong, but trauma doesn't salute and move on. Eventually, she was medically discharged. She didn't tell people what she had done. Heroes who survive when others don't rarely feel like heroes. Without the structure of service, the world felt chaotic. Loud, unsafe, she drifted. Savings disappeared. Nightmares remained. And pride kept her from asking for help. So yes, she had been sleeping behind that grocery store, but she wasn't begging. She was surviving. Back in the courtroom, Judge Bennett cleared his throat, regaining composure. A court will recess for 10 minutes. When they returned, the energy had shifted. The prosecutor looked unsettled. The defense attorney, previously disinterested, now looked at Avery with new understanding. "And Ms. Cole," the judge said, voice steady again but gentler, "tell this court exactly what happened outside that store." Avery inhaled slowly. The girl was standing near the entrance. The man was gripping her arm. She was crying quietly. He told her to stop being dramatic. I approached. I asked if everything was okay. He tightened his grip. She said, "Please." Her voice cracked for the first time. "I've heard that word in combat," she said. "It sounds the same everywhere." The courtroom was silent. I reacted. "Did you intend to cause serious harm?" the judge asked. "No, sir. I intended to stop him." At that moment, something unexpected happened. The courtroom doors opened. A woman hurried in, holding the hand of a young girl. "Your Honor, I'm so sorry. We were out of town. I just found out about this." The girl looked toward Avery. Recognition. Relief. "That's her," the girl whispered. "Has she saved me?" The mother testified that the man was her ex-husband, under a restraining order she hadn't yet filed officially. The child had been too afraid to speak earlier. The security footage didn't show the beginning, but the truth was clear now. The prosecutor's argument collapsed. Judge Bennett leaned forward. "Given the new testimony and evidence, this court finds that Miss Avery Cole acted in defense of a minor under reasonable belief of harm. All charges are dismissed." The gavel struck, but no one moved, because the judge wasn't finished. Finished. He removed his robe slowly and stepped down from the bench. He stood in front of Avery. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, two people shaped by the same tragedy. "My son wrote me a letter," he said quietly, before his last deployment. He said, "Dad, if anything happens to me, know that I served beside the bravest woman I've ever met." Avery's breath caught. "He was talking about you." Tears slid silently down her face. "You saved him that day," the judge continued. "He survived long enough for us to say goodbye because of you." "I never knew your name." The courtroom was crying openly now. "You have carried enough alone," he said. Then he did something no one expected. He turned to the courtroom. "This woman is not homeless because she is weak. She is homeless because sometimes our heroes return to a country that forgets how to catch them when they fall." He faced Avery again. "If you will allow it, my family would like to help." Not out of pity, out of gratitude. Avery stood there, this warrior who had faced gunfire without flinching, and finally let herself break, not in shame, in relief. Weeks later, the story spread, not as scandal, but as awakening. Veterans groups reached out. The local community organized support. Avery began counseling, not because she was forced, but because she chose to fight for herself the way she fought for others. She found housing, purpose, healing. And on a quiet morning months later, she stood beside Judge Bennett at a memorial for fallen service members, not as defendant and judge, but as family. Before leaving, she looked at the engraved names, including Daniel Bennett's. "I couldn't save everyone," she whispered, "but I'm still here." And sometimes that's the bravest thing of all. We never know the battles someone is fighting. We never know the medals hidden beneath worn-out clothes. And we never know when the person standing accused is actually the one who once stood between us and danger. And sometimes all it takes is hearing a name to remember who they truly are.